The hall was silent as Ryan stood before the council. His heart pounded inside his chest. Bright lights from the crystal ceiling reflected off the polished silver walls of the Galactic Assembly. Hundreds of alien leaders watched him. Most were Veliari tall beings with pale, soft blue or purple skin, small elf-like ears, and shining eyes. They were graceful and elegant, like living statues. He never imagined his mission to the Veliari Empire would end like this. Human delegate. Ryan, the Emperor spoke in a calm but commanding voice. For the sake of peace between our people, you will marry my youngest daughter. Ryan's hands trembled slightly. He was just a simple diplomat, not a soldier, not a prince. How had it come to this? He bowed his head respectfully. I serve my people. I accept. The room filled with whispers. Some aliens seemed pleased, others surprised. Ryan could feel many pairs of eyes watching him, judging him. Then, from behind the Emperor, she stepped forward. The youngest Veliari princess. Her name was Lyra. She was beautiful in a way Ryan had never seen before. Her skin had a pale lavender blue color, smooth and flawless. Her hair was silver with a soft shine. The small elf-like ears gave her an exotic look. Her eyes were wide, colored like clear ocean water, but her expression was serious, almost cold. She approached him, her movements graceful and controlled. Standing in front of him, she barely reached his shoulders. This union is for peace, she said softly, but her voice carried strength. I will honor the agreement. Ryan looked into her eyes. For a moment, they both stood silently. He nodded, and I will honor you. The ceremony was short. A simple exchange of vows overseen by the Emperor and human ambassadors. Soon, they were married strangers, united by politics. That the ride to the royal chambers was awkward. Lyra sat across from him, in the small private shuttle. The city lights of the Veliari capital shined below them, tall spires, glowing pathways, and floating platforms that moved smoothly between buildings. Ryan tried to speak, but no words came out. Finally, Lyra broke the silence. You are uncomfortable. Ryan smiled nervously, a little. I didn't expect to get married today. It was not my choice either, she replied, but I will fulfill my duty. Ryan studied her face. She was calm, but he sensed something behind her eyes. Sadness, frustration, maybe both. I hope, in time, we can be at least friends, he said carefully. Lyra looked at him, her expression softening just a bit. Friendship would be acceptable. When they arrived at the royal palace, Ryan was led to his new quarters. The room was huge, decorated with smooth metal walls, hanging crystals, and soft white lights. Strange alien plants stood in the corners, their leaves glowing faintly. In the center stood a large bed, clearly made for two. Lyra entered the room with him. She wore a long teal dress, her hair falling neatly down her back. She stood silently, unsure of what to say. Ryan felt awkward. We don't have to, do anything tonight. I mean, Lyra raised a hand to stop him. I understand. Human, our customs do not require immediate physical bonding. Her voice was soft, but firm. We will share this space as companions for now. Ryan let out a small sigh of relief. Thank you. She nodded. You may take the left side of the bed. Days passed. Every morning, Ryan and Lyra attended official meetings together, smiling for the cameras, shaking hands with ambassadors from different worlds. At night, they returned to their chambers, exchanged polite conversation, and slept on opposite sides of the wide bed. Slowly, Ryan tried to break the distance between them. One evening, while they were having dinner, Ryan complimented her. People have built a beautiful city. Lyra looked at him, curious. You truly think so? Yes, Ryan smiled. It's unlike anything on Earth. Peaceful, advanced, full of life. A small smile appeared on Lyra's lips. The first, real one he had seen. Thank you. Encouraged, Ryan continued. And your dress tonight is very beautiful too. Lyra blinked, surprised. Her cheeks turned a faint shade of purple. Compliments are rare among my people, she admitted. Humans are a bit different. Ryan chuckled. We like to express what we feel. She seemed to think about his words for a moment, then nodded. Perhaps your ways are not so strange. But not everyone was happy with the marriage. Whispers spread through the palace. Some Veliari nobles disliked the idea of their princess married to a human. Secret meetings took place in hidden chambers. Angry voices spoke of betrayal, of weakening the Veliari bloodline. In one dark corner of the palace, a figure in a black robe spoke to his followers. The humans will never be our equals, he hissed. This marriage must fail. The princess will be removed. The treaty will collapse and the empire will rise again. The group nodded in agreement. Plans were being made. Danger was coming. Back in their chambers, Ryan and Lyra stood on the balcony, looking at the star-filled sky. The twin moons of the Veliari homeworld glowed softly above them. "Do you miss your home?" Lyra asked gently. "Every day," Ryan answered honestly, "but being here with you is not as bad as I thought." Lyra looked at him, her eyes softer now. "You are not like other humans I have heard about, and you're not like I expected either." Ryan smiled. For the first time there was a warmth between them, a small spark of something real. Perhaps friendship, perhaps something more, but neither of them knew that soon. Their new bond would be tested in ways they couldn't imagine. End of part 1. The days were peaceful, but Ryan could feel something strange in the air. The palace halls were full of soft music and polite greetings, yet behind the smiles, there was tension. Some Veliari nobles looked at him with cold eyes. He was an outsider, a human in a world that still didn't fully trust his kind. Lyra noticed it too. One morning, while they sat at breakfast, she spoke quietly. "There are whispers, Ryan. Some do not support our marriage." Ryan put down his cup. "I've noticed. Do you think we are in danger?" She hesitated for a moment. "Not yet, but some Veliari believe our union weakens the empire." Ryan sighed. "It was supposed to bring peace. Peace is not always easy," Lyra said softly. "There are those who fear change." Her voice was calm, but Ryan could sense her worry. He had grown to respect Lyra. She was not just a princess who followed orders. She was intelligent, brave, and strong inside. As they continued their meal, a soft chime rang. A servant entered, and bowed. "Your Highness, your father requests your presence." Lyra stood up gracefully. "I will return soon." Ryan watched her leave, feeling uneasy. The shadows in the palace seemed longer today. Later that afternoon, Ryan decided to walk through the palace gardens. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of alien flowers. Birds with colorful feathers sang softly, while floating insects glowed like tiny stars. He walked along the stone path, thinking deeply. The political pressure, the dangerous whispers, and now his growing feelings for Lyra. Everything was becoming more complicated. Suddenly, he heard a noise behind him, a sharp snap. He turned quickly but saw nothing. The garden was empty. He called. No answer. Ryan's heart beat faster. He took a few careful steps forward, scanning the area. Then, from behind a tall bush, a figure appeared, cloaked in black. The person moved fast, rushing toward him with a small blade in hand. Ryan's instincts kicked in. He dodged to the side just in time, the blade barely missing him. The attacker lunged again. Ryan grabbed a nearby metal pole used for guiding the garden plants and swung it hard. The pole struck the attacker's arm, making him drop the blade. The cloaked figure hissed, turned, and fled into the shadows. Guards arrived moments later, alerted by the noise. "My lord, are you hurt?" One of them asked. "I'm fine," Ryan said, breathing heavily. "But someone tried to kill me." The guards spread out, but the attacker had already disappeared. That evening, Lyra sat beside him in their chamber. She was silent for a long moment before finally speaking. "You could have been killed." "I'm still here," Ryan smiled. Weakly, "This is serious, Ryan. An attack inside the palace means someone powerful is behind this." Ryan nodded. "We have enemies." Lyra clenched her fists. "I will not allow harm to come to you. You are my husband. This marriage is my responsibility." Her words surprised Ryan. She spoke not like a princess forced into marriage, but like a partner who cared. "You don't have to protect me alone," Ryan said gently. "We can face this together." Their eyes met. For a moment, the distance between them grew smaller. The Emperor called them both the next day. His face was calm, but his eyes showed concern. "I have been informed of the attack," the Emperor said. "This act is a disgrace to the Empire." "Do you know who is behind it?" Ryan asked. The Emperor sighed. "There are many who oppose change, human, but fear not. My guards will keep you safe." Lyra spoke firmly. "Father, I request permission to lead the investigation personally." The Emperor raised an eyebrow. "That is unusual for a princess. I trained in the art of defense for years. Father will not sit idle while my husband's life is in danger." The Emperor studied his daughter for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, but be careful." Lyra bowed. "I will." That night, Lyra showed Ryan something he didn't expect. In a hidden chamber behind their quarters, she revealed her private training area. Weapons of various designs lined the walls, staffs, blades, and energy weapons. The room was dimly lit, quiet, and secret. "I never knew you trained like this," Ryan said, impressed. "My older siblings were always seen as stronger, more valuable," Lyra explained. "I was left to learn quietly, in secret. I chose to master my own skills." She picked up a long silver staff and spun it with perfect balance. Impressive, Ryan smiled. I feel safer already. Lyra handed him a smaller staff. Then you must learn to refrain if danger comes again. You must be ready. Ryan hesitated but accepted the weapon. All right, teach me. And so, under Lyra's guidance, Ryan began learning basic defense. He wasn't a natural, but he was determined. Each day they trained together. The sessions were tough, but also brought them closer. For the first time, they laughed together, struggled together, and began building trust. One evening, after training, Ryan sat beside Lyra on the balcony. The stars above sparkled like diamonds. The cool breeze carried the scent of alien flowers, Ryan said. When I first arrived, I thought this marriage would be nothing but politics. Lyra looked at him, her eyes gentle. And now, I see you, not just a princess, but a strong, kind person. She smiled softly. You surprise me, human. Ryan laughed. I surprise myself. There was a quiet moment between them. No words were needed. The distance that once existed was fading, but danger still waited in the shadows, far below the palace. In secret tunnels, the cloaked figure who had attacked Ryan stood before his leader, a high-ranking noble. The human lives, the noble said coldly. Yes, my lord, but I failed. Failure is not acceptable, the noble growled. The treaty must be broken. The Empire must not mix with the humans. Prepare the next plan, the figure bowed. As you command. Plans were in motion. The next attack would be far more dangerous. End of part 2. The next few days passed quietly on the surface, but tension grew underneath. Ryan and Lyra continued their daily duties, meeting diplomats, attending ceremonies, and smiling for the cameras, but both knew something dangerous was coming. At night, they trained together. Lyra was strict, but patient. She corrected Ryan's every mistake, showing him how to defend himself with grace and speed. Ryan admired her skill more each day. You learn fast, Lyra said one evening as Ryan blocked one of her strikes. Because I have a good teacher, he smiled. For a moment their eyes met again. The cold distance that once existed was now replaced by a growing warmth. What began as a forced marriage was slowly turning into something real. But outside their small world, the plot against them was moving forward. Deep inside the palace, in a secret room, the leader of the radical faction sat with his followers. The humans survived the first attempt. The leader said bitterly, but this time, we will strike at both of them. A map of the palace appeared on the table. We will strike during the next council meeting. All eyes will be on them. If we succeed, the treaty will fall apart, and the Empire will return to purity. The followers nodded in agreement, their faces full of hatred. The day of the council meeting arrived. Leaders from many worlds gathered in the grand hall. The ceiling sparkled like a sky full of stars. Long banners of different colors, and symbols hung from tall crystal pillars. Ryan stood beside Lyra, dressed in the traditional royal robe of the He was still not fully used to the alien clothing, but today, he stood with pride. Lyra stood tall beside him. She wore a stunning emerald dress that shimmered as she moved. Her silver hair was braided elegantly, and her calm eyes scanned the room carefully. Stay alert, she whispered to Ryan. Something feels wrong. Ryan nodded, already tense. The meeting began. Speeches were made, deals discussed, and the future of peace between humans and Veliari was praised. But both Ryan and Lyra stayed alert. Their eyes moved constantly, watching every corner of the room. Suddenly, Lyra stiffened. There, she whispered sharply. A cloaked figure moved quickly along the upper balcony. Aiming a small weapon at Ryan. Without hesitation, Lyra leaped forward, pulling Ryan down to the ground just as a bright shot of energy flew over their heads. The hall filled with screams and panic. Guards rushed forward. The attacker tried to escape, but this time Lyra chased him herself. Stay here, she ordered Ryan and sprinted toward the fleeing assassin. Lyra moved like lightning through the palace halls. The attacker was fast, but she was trained for this. They raced through narrow corridors, past guards who struggled to keep up. Finally, in an empty chamber deep in the palace, she caught him. With a skilled move, she knocked the weapon from his hand and pinned him against the wall with her. Staff, who sent you? She demanded. That the attacker struggled but said nothing. I will not ask again. Lyra's voice grew sharper. Finally, the attacker spoke in a low voice. The council member, Lord Varric. He leads us. Lyra's eyes narrowed. She had suspected some nobles were involved, but to hear a name confirmed it. You will confess before my father, she said. The guards arrived and took the prisoner away. Later that night, Ryan sat with Lyra in their chamber. His hands were still shaking slightly from the attack. You saved my life again, he said softly. You are my husband, Lyra replied. I will always protect you. Ryan looked at her carefully. You're not just a princess, Lyra. A warrior, she smiled faintly. I trained for many years, in secret. My father allowed me to learn, but I was never meant to lead armies like my brothers. Why did you hide it? Ryan asked. Because I wanted to prove I was more than just the youngest daughter. I wanted to be strong, to protect what I love. Ryan's heart softened at her words. You are strong, Lyra, stronger than anyone I've met. For a brief moment, silence filled the room. Then Lyra spoke again, her voice softer now. When we first married, I thought this was only politics. I was cold to you because I didn't believe it would ever be real. Ryan nodded. I thought the same, but now, she continued, I feel something different. Ryan reached for her hand. Me too. Their hands touched gently, fingers locking together. For the first time, the bond between them was no longer forced. It was growing from inside their hearts. The next morning, the Emperor called an emergency meeting. The captured attacker confessed under questioning, revealing Lord Varric as the leader of the radical faction. Varric was arrested and brought before the council. Standing tall, Lyra faced him without fear. You betrayed the Empire, Varric, she said loudly. You tried to destroy peace. You attacked my husband, Varric sneered. I did what was right. The humans will ruin our bloodline. You disgrace your people, princess. But the council was silent. The truth was clear. The Emperor spoke with a heavy voice. You have broken our laws, Varric. You have threatened peace. You are stripped of all power and banished from this world. Guards dragged Varric away as he shouted in anger. The room remained still, but relief spread among the council members. That evening, Ryan and Lyra stood once again on their balcony, looking up at the stars. It's over, Ryan said. For now, Lyra replied. But more challenges may come. Ryan smiled. We'll face them together. Lyra turned to him, her eyes full of warmth. Together, they stood close, hand in hand, no longer strangers forced into marriage, but partners. Than before, the danger had brought them closer, and something deeper was starting to bloom between them. End of Part 3. Peace returned to the palace, at least on the surface. Lord Varric's arrest had stopped the immediate danger, but Ryan and Lyra knew better than to relax fully. Enemies often hide in the shadows, waiting for the right time to strike again. Ryan continued his training with Lyra. He had grown stronger, faster, and more confident under her careful guidance. What began as simple lessons had turned into shared time filled with laughter and quiet conversations. One evening, after their training, they sat on the balcony once again. The twin moons were full and the stars twinkled gently above them. You've changed, Lyra said softly. Watching him, changed. How Ryan smiled. When you first arrived, you were unsure, even afraid. Now, you stand like a warrior. That's because I have the best teacher, Ryan replied, his eyes full of warmth. Lyra, single quotes, his cheeks turned slightly purple, a sign of her blushing. And you, human, have surprised me more than I ever expected. There was no longer any doubt. What once was forced had now grown into something real, a bond stronger than duty. But far from the palace, in a hidden mountain base, a darker plan was unfolding. Lord Varric may have been captured, but he was not alone. His secret allies, more powerful than anyone expected, continued their work. A hooded figure stood before a group of high-ranking Veliari officers who had secretly joined the rebellion. Our leader may be imprisoned, but the plan is not over, the hooded figure said. The council's rule must fall. The humans must be removed. The officers nodded, their faces hard. The peace summit is coming soon. All leaders will gather in one place. We will strike then, and none will survive. One officer raised his hand. What of the princess and her human mate? They will fall with the others, the leader said coldly. This time, we will not fail. Back at the palace, preparations for the Grand Peace Summit were underway. Ambassadors from many planets had arrived. Flags from different worlds decorated the palace halls. The air buzzed with excitement and tension. Ryan and Lyra walked through the grand hall, greeting the guests. Diplomats from Earth, Veliari generals, and alien leaders from nearby systems gathered, exchanging polite words and smiles. This summit will mark the beginning of true peace, Ryan said. Yes, Lyra nodded, but her eyes remained cautious. If it succeeds, Ryan noticed her uneasiness. You still sense danger. I trust my instincts, Ryan, she answered. And they tell me the fight is not over. Ryan reached for her hand. Then we'll stay ready. That night, as they returned to their chambers, one of Lyra's loyal guards approached. My princess, the guard whispered. I have information. Lyra's eyes sharpened. Speak. There is talk of a new plot. The rebels are planning an attack during the summit. They have powerful allies still hidden within the Empire. Lyra's face hardened. We must find them before they act. The guard handed her a small device. These are the names of suspected traitors. Lyra took the device and studied it carefully. Her face paled as she read. What is it? Ryan asked. She looked up, her voice heavy. Someone close to my father is involved. The next morning, Lyra requested a private meeting with her father, the Emperor. Inside the Emperor's private chamber, only Ryan, Lyra, and the Emperor stood. Lyra handed him the device. Father, there are traitors within your council. The attack on Ryan was only the beginning. The real plan is to strike at the summit. The Emperor read the names carefully, his face darkening with every word. One name stood out, Counselor Marak, a trusted advisor who had served for decades. I cannot believe this, the Emperor whispered. Marak has been by my side for years. The proof is strong, Lyra said firmly. He must be stopped. The Emperor closed his eyes, for a moment, then nodded. We will move carefully. If we act too soon, we may expose ourselves. If we wait too long, they may succeed. We'll protect the summit, Ryan said. We won't let them destroy everything we've built. The day of the Peace Summit arrived. The Grand Hall was filled with leaders from across the galaxy. The atmosphere was festive, but underneath, a quiet tension hummed. Ryan stood beside Lyra, both fully alert. Their eyes scanned every face, every corner, searching for any sign of danger. Counselor Marak stood not far from the Emperor, wearing his usual calm expression, but now, Ryan and Lyra knew the truth hidden behind those cold eyes. Suddenly, in the middle of the Emperor's speech, the lights flickered, then a loud explosion shook the palace. Panic spread through the hall as smoke filled the room. Guards rushed to protect the leaders. In the chaos, masked attackers appeared, armed with energy weapons, shouting commands. This is the end of your rule. One of them shouted, the Veliari Empire belongs to us. Ryan pulled Lyra behind a column for cover. They've started, he said, gripping the small weapon Lyra had secretly given him earlier. Lyra's eyes were sharp, her mind calm. Stay close, we end this tonight. Fighting broke out across the hall. Lyra moved swiftly, using her staff to disarm and disable attackers. Ryan followed her lead, blocking and striking with surprising skill. One masked attacker charged at Ryan, but he ducked and swept the enemy's legs, knocking him to the ground. You're getting better, Lyra shouted with a quick smile, even as she fought off two more attackers. But the real enemy still stood. Counselor Marak through the smoke. Lyra saw him trying to reach the Emperor with a hidden blade. Without hesitation, Lyra sprinted across the room, cutting through the attackers. She shouted. The traitor turned, his face twisting in anger. You should have stayed silent, princess. He lunged at her, but Lyra was faster. Their weapons clashed. Sparks flew as staff met blade. Marak fought with wild fury, but Lyra's training and calm mind gave her the advantage. Finally, with one swift move, she disarmed him and struck him down, pinning him to the ground. It's over, she said coldly. The guards quickly seized Marak and the remaining rebels. The battle was won. When the smoke cleared, the Emperor addressed the leaders. Today we faced betrayal, he said, but together we stood strong. Our unity has defeated those who seek to divide us. Let this be the true beginning of peace. The hall erupted in applause. That night, as the palace quieted once again, Ryan and Lyra stood together on the balcony, watching the twin moons rise. You saved my father, Ryan said, and you saved me again. Lyra smiled gently. You fought by my side, Ryan. You are no longer just a visitor to this world. You are part of it. Ryan looked at her, his voice full of emotion. And you are no longer just my duty, you are my heart. Lyra blushed softly. And you are mine. Their hands met, fingers locking. As they leaned closer for the first time, they shared a gentle, meaningful kiss. Not forced, not arranged, but true. The bond between them was now unbreakable. End of part 4. A new day rose over the Veliari Empire. The twin suns lit the tall crystal towers of the capital, shining brightly as if announcing a fresh beginning. The air was calm, and peace finally seemed real. For the first time since his arrival, Ryan felt completely at ease. The heavy burden of threats, betrayal, and danger had been lifted. Now he stood not as an outsider but as someone fully accepted into this world. Lyra stood beside him, her hand gently holding his. She wore a flowing sky-blue dress that matched the bright morning. Her silver hair glowed softly under the twin suns. They both looked out over the city from the palace balcony. It's beautiful, Ryan said quietly. Yes, Lyra replied. And now, it belongs to both of us. Their eyes met. filled with warmth. What began as a forced marriage had grown into something deep and unbreakable. In the Grand Council chamber, leaders from across the galaxy gathered once more. This time, however, it was not for speeches or negotiations, but for a celebration. The Emperor stood at the center, his voice strong. Today, we mark the true beginning of peace. Thanks to the bravery of my daughter, Princess Lyra, and her husband, Ryan of Earth, we have overcome the darkness that threatened us. The hall erupted in applause. Ryan and Lyra stepped forward. Ryan bowed respectfully while Lyra stood tall and proud. The Emperor continued. This marriage was once seen as a political agreement, but it has become much more. It has shown us all that unity between our worlds is not only possible but powerful. The audience clapped again, louder this time. Ryan felt a strange emotion inside him, pride, but also something more. He no longer felt like a foreigner. The Veliari had accepted him not only as their princess's husband but as one of their own. Later, in a private ceremony, the Emperor called Ryan and Lyra into his personal chamber. You both have shown great courage, the Emperor said. Future of our people rests in strong hands. Lyra bowed her head respectfully. Thank you, father. The Emperor turned to Ryan. You came here as a stranger. Now, you are family. I am honored, your majesty, Ryan replied sincerely. The Emperor smiled. From this day forward, you will be known as Prince Consort of the Veliari Empire. Ryan was surprised. He had never imagined this moment. A simple human diplomat, now a prince of an alien world. I will serve and protect this empire, as I would my own people, Ryan promised. The Emperor nodded, satisfied. Then may peace and prosperity guide us all. In the weeks that followed, changes spread throughout the empire. Trade agreements between Earth and Veliari worlds strengthened. Joint military operations were organized to protect against outside threats. Cultural exchanges allowed humans and Veliari to learn from each other. Everywhere Ryan and Lyra went, they were greeted with smiles, cheers, and respect. For Ryan, life had taken a path he never expected. But it wasn't just politics that had changed, it was his heart. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with soft orange and pink colors, Ryan prepared a surprise for Lyra. He decorated their private garden with small glowing lanterns. Soft music from both Earth and Veliari traditions filled the air. When Lyra entered the garden, she paused, surprised. What is all this? She asked with a gentle smile. Ryan walked up to her, holding her hands. A gift, to celebrate how far we've come. Lyra looked around, her eyes sparkling. It's beautiful. Ryan took a deep breath. His heart pounded, but this time it was not from fear. When I came here, I never thought I would find love, Ryan said softly. But you showed me strength, kindness, and courage. You are not only my partner, you are my everything. Lyra's eyes shimmered as she listened. Ryan continued, I may have been forced to marry you at first, but everything changed when I saw the real you. Lyra squeezed his hands gently. And I saw the real you, Ryan, a man who stood beside me, even in danger, a man who loves not because he must, but because he chooses to. They smiled at each other, their bond stronger than ever. Under the glowing lanterns, Ryan leaned forward, and they shared a long, tender kiss. The stars above witnessed their love that had begun by duty but grew into something pure. Following months brought even greater peace. Rebel groups lost support as citizens saw the success of the unity between humans and Veliari. Trade flourished. Science, art, and technology advanced rapidly as both species shared their knowledge. Even Ryan's family on Earth visited the Veliari world, amazed at the beauty of their son's new home. They were welcomed warmly, treated with great respect. One day, Ryan stood with Lyra, watching Earth's first delegation arrive to sign a permanent alliance treaty. My people are finally here, Ryan said with pride. And they are welcome, Lyra replied, her voice full of hope. The Earth ambassador shook hands with the Emperor, smiling. May this alliance last for generations. Ryan and Lyra stood side by side, knowing that their marriage had started this great change. That night, as they returned to their chambers, Lyra paused and looked at Ryan. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you refused the marriage? Ryan chuckled. Every day. And, she asked playfully. He smiled warmly. Then I would have missed the best part of my life. Lyra blushed softly. As would I. They embraced, holding each other closely. The warmth between them was no longer a fragile spark but a burning flame. Years later, their story was told to children across both worlds. How a human diplomat and a young alien princess, once strangers forced into marriage, found love, fought together, and changed the course of history. They became symbols of unity, courage, and love between two distant worlds. The end.